Here we go. All righty. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cannabis Accounting Podcast. We have Max Jackson with us today, the commercial cultivation problem solver, founder of Cannabis Wiseguys. We're talking little bit off screen, but I'll kick it over to you, Max, to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey guys, my name's Max, founder of Cannabis Wiseguys. We help cultivation operations with optimization, troubleshooting, and efficiency, and also provide technical due diligence and operational reality checks for investors and those on the finance side of things.
I like the word operational reality checks. As a finance guy, I'm like, I need that. I'm like, I don't really know what's going on. But tell me a little bit about kind of your background. We were talking about like Alaska. I know you were a photographer before then. Kind of tell me about your roots and what'd you do before Alaska? How'd you end up there?
So I've always been a photographer my whole life and studied political science and economics in college. Originally planned on law school and then just decided to travel instead, just chase the camera. And went up to Alaska, was taking pictures up there. I was a zip line guide. It was lots of fun, but I was just
Nice.
looking for more. And I started working with my local dispensary. I was doing photos for them, lifestyle product work. And after that season ended, I went straight down to LA. I had a cousin who was out there and he was like, hey, come hang out. And it was the perfect place to go for cannabis photography in 2017, 18. And that led into me seeing a lot of facilities. I saw a lot of things that were really great, saw a lot of things that were really, really sketchy. And really, the greatest part was meeting everybody who was doing the work with the plant and really seeing that while I was able to capture the plant and see it from this view and get to spend time with it in like a macro studio perspective, I still really had more desire to play with the plants. I had never grown any of them myself, and that all changed when one of my photo clients was just like, hey, you can park your van. Oh, by the way, I live in a camper van, ambulance converted to a camper, travel the country with that, currently in Jersey. But he was like, yeah, you can come park your van out on the farm. And we'll pay you to work and learn. And I was just sitting, I was on the farm. We were 2 hours from a grocery store, middle of nowhere. So I'm just studying podcasts and then going into the head grower. I'm like, hey, does this make sense? And he'd grab me and he'd be like, let's go look. We'd go do it hands on, and kept doing that for a while. And eventually it turned into me becoming the GM of that facility during a transition period with a consultant bringing in from living soil to 1 gallon cocoa pots on irrigation with the goals of optimization and efficiency and automation.
Yeah. Those are different grows or different systems.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Living soil versus cocoa. The living soil stuff, like they had some of the best flower that I've had out in California. Just light depth outdoor, cold winter. Those the cold winter runs were some of the best flower.
That makes sense. I say my family grew up in Michigan, and so that was kind of their MO. It gets cold in Michigan, and so you get come of these like later season cold nights. It's like it kind of helps out, and it is interesting. Like I'm used to outdoor grows, just kind of where we got started, but it's like they're completely different. Whether it's living soil, an actual grow medium. Back in the day, everybody loved hydroponics. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but like they're all different growing systems that require different levels of expertise. So like, what did you learn kind of through that process, and how did you transition out of that grow?
So through that process, I really started to see a lot of red flags in our facility, red flags in facilities that I would see in other places. So the irrigation design that we were given ended up being underspec by about 40%. We had to hand water. We had 2,700 plants in each greenhouse. We had to hand water them
How many
with drippers
greenhouses?
installed. Three greenhouses at 2,700 and then three more at 1,600. So it was like 13,000 plants. There's a lot of plants. Uh,
It take people don't realize like you're like watering, but like it takes seconds per plant,
oh yeah.
leads into minutes, leads into hours. You're like, well, there's only how many people? You like start doing the math. You're like, we're just gonna walk around and water this whole cycle.
Absolutely. And that the whole plan with the irrigation was to get away from being there holding a hose. And
Yeah.
it was, we put all the drippers, we spent all the time to get these plants ready to have automation and irrigation only for it to be undersized and have to sit there and go back to holding the hose. But now your labor is spec'd for the automation theory. And now you got people who are watering plants by hand all day and spending their entire day doing it. And we were growing in cocoa, which doesn't really like to dry back as much. Like soil is okay to get it. It doesn't have to be watered every single day. Cocoa needs to be hit every single day. So there is no like, oh, we'll do this greenhouse today and that greenhouse tomorrow. It's like, guys, this is what we're doing.
Right. Ah, dude, I hear that too, where it's like the system was spec for automation, the labor was hired for automation, so already there's less than there needs to be, and then candidly, if the labor was hired to run an automated system and they're doing a lot of manual labor, in my experience, it pisses them off. And so, like,
Oh yeah.
you can't keep them 'cause then they're like, I did not sign up for this. I am a head grower or like a very smart cultivation expert. I'm not a hand labor, field laborer. It's like, we kind of just need some field labor right now. And like that's easier said than done.
It gets tough. Yeah, you gotta at the end of the day, we're in it for the plant, so we're gonna do what we have to do. We
Yeah,
break
because
our
we
backs
care.
for the plant. And it's because we care. And then we're on the ground. So I'm like, all right, well, now we have to figure this out. How do we have this irrigation system in front of that works, not work? So I have dived down into how does an irrigation system work? What are flow rates and what are our drippers and how many drippers do we have? So really, as simple as just like going to the end of your line, opening up like with a 5 gallon bucket and a stopwatch, opening the valve. How long does it take for the bucket to fill? There's your flow rate. That's how you know how many gallons per minute you got
There's
or
one
gallons per
data
second,
point.
whatever.
Yep.
Well, and it's easy, and it's like that's all that somebody has to do when they're going to walk into a facility and spec it is like you at least know can it handle what you're theoretically going to push at it. And for us, the answer was no. So we had 8 zones in greenhouse. I had to jump it up to 16. We basically double it,
Yeah.
one zone per bed. And once that was done, it was great, smooth sailing on the irrigation front. And then I realized that these big fancy high tech greenhouses, the heaters kept blowing, the motors kept blowing, and it's like, why is that? I called Resner. They're like, we've never seen anything like that before. Turns out that the wiring on those heaters was set up to just when it hit temperature set point to just kill power. It just killed the relay, so the heater was off, but the heater never got to go through its cool down cycle. It never thought that it was off. So then when the heater is called for again, it's gonna turn on and go through an error and its cooldown cycle and then not turn on. So now we have heaters. It's like, well, why won't the heaters turn on? And then we got to figure this out. So I go down to town 2 hours each way and buy like 35 thermostats. They're looking at me like I'm insane. And we're just trying to get this to work at this point, this fancy
Were those
facility.
like the little
And
handheld like thermostats with the humid as well? It's like this is the temp, this is the
oh yeah,
humidity, and
just
like
like the
place them
tiny
at
little
random
basic
day.
ones. I ran two
Yeah.
wires to the middle of the greenhouse, dropped them down so we could see them, and then I put a third actual thermometer on there so we could confirm
Oh yeah.
everything was doing what it was supposed to do. It was ridiculous.
But it's I don't know, you gotta
Uh,
get started somewhere, and, like, that's how this shit goes. It's like people nowadays just they see these high-tech grows and 15,000,000, 10,000,000. It's like, it's not how this game is actually played. Like, that stuff makes the internet, but the actual products people consume, it's not these high-tech spaceship Planet 13 with a grow room through a window. It's like, nah, you're usually in the middle of nowhere, running off your own systems, trying to figure this out, literally creating your own climate controlled environments. Like I don't really go to school for this, but I feel like we can make a climate controlled environment. Um, but no, but it's like trial by fire. So like you learn the most through these environments, and then you can step into some of these more like sophisticated, grows. But you gotta start from the grassroots. And this kind of reminds me of like there was a disconnect, right? Like there was some type of owner who had capital, deployed it to build out this grow. It's clearly not a small grow, so it did cost some capital, but there was misalignment with how like the ownership team and the operations team, really it's like they're all one team. So I actually don't like how people try to think there's like different teams. We're all in the same team. But like the finance, I always delineate between finance and operations. It's like, well, someone needs to manage the money in and money out and make sure we have money to buy the material, the direct material the operations need, pay the payroll of the labor. So, but you still need operations to make sure we got products, it's getting sold, it's quality product, it gets delivered on time. So I feel like with that in mind, the roles of finance and operations, I guess, just how do you define them? And then where do you think the breakdown happened with this specific situation where they didn't, get enough energy to the place or get it enough supplies that they needed because they had some capital, but they just misallocated it. So I guess how you define finance and operations, and what do you think are common breakdowns in their communications? Because we all want the same goal. We want a profitable cannabis company because employs us all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have the same goal in theory. There's a lot of people on the financial side that are like, "Ooh, I want to get out in 3 years," and
Yeah,
kind of
that's
that
true.
goal diverges from the cultivators' goals. But in reality, and I don't know, I come from the grower and the operations side of things. So at the end of the day,
Hey, it's a judgment-free zone, Max. There's no wrong answers.
I have the plants back. I got the plants back no matter what, because at the end of the day, like you were saying, like we don't have this without the plants, and but we needs to be able to be successful and financially stable. So if you're growing bad plants, it's not going to work. Um, but for me, I think that finance's role is really to have done enough due diligence to ensure that the project is even viable. Like if it's not good for
Right.
anyone if operations is begging for necessities like IPM or a labor budget, and finance is like, oh, well, we spent all of our money during the build on capital expenditure and now we don't have enough for operations. It's like, well, you should have already, like, this is not a me problem. This is a you problem. You should have figured that out already.
Yeah. Yeah, this should definitely have been on the front end business plan, like figuring out best case scenario, worst case scenario, most high probability case scenario. Um, but yeah, right. Cause I feel like people tech like a lot, it is the tale as old as time right now in cannabis. Everybody blew their capital on the CapEx. We have minimal OpEx budget, but the OpEx is how we pay back the capital X. So it's like, well, we need some OpEx budget or we'll have no money. And then the whole business goes out of business. So no, I hear you on that where it's like they over budgeted. And I feel like why do you think people under budget OpEx so much when they're thinking through their business plan the first year and the second year?
I've been trying to figure this out because I'll see such sophisticated grows. I'll see people who are asking all the right questions and making good decisions with automation and sensors and long thinking about like growing longer strains and actually curing the flower, not just trying to turn and burn and get stuff on the
Yeah.
shelves. And even those people are making these decisions, making these, I don't know, they're just falling into the trap of thinking that it's going to be easier and it's just going to grow itself, or I don't really know. It blows me away because I have spreadsheets of how long all these things take. I've taken videos for investors trying to be like, look, this is what defoliation is. This is how long it takes, and this is why we do it. And I'll send you a picture next week and show you
Dude, if
what
they've
it did.
never done it though, they're like, how many people do you need to defoliate? You're just cutting off their leaves. That should take like a second. You're like, fuck you, dude. You
And
ever
we
get your
paid to
hands
grow
in there?
those leaves. Why are we cutting them off?
Oh, geez, right? You're like, you even get those questions. And I'm like fortunate, like I was raised on, cultivations. My cousins are cultivators. Like I've always been around the plant and the gardens. And so I need to get out of my own little head sometimes because I do talk to other investors and lenders and like even founders and operators. And they're like, I've never actually like managed 1,000 plants in an open field. It's like, well, it takes a lot of fucking doing. And then yeah, you could put it into a greenhouse, but then you got your own different set of problems then because now it's all contained. And it's like there's never no problems and they always take humans to solve them, and that's where I was going with this is automation. I feel like eats so much budget, especially from the finance team side. It's like, well, we built the grow. What do you mean you need more OpEx? Like, dude, you put up some lights and maybe some irrigation, some rooms, but we still need humans to go in there and like make sure it's all working and like monitoring the automation. I guess that's where I was going with this. Is like I feel like people think automation just always works and it fucking doesn't. It's like,
Absolutely. It's funny. I'll circle back onto that one, but I was gonna say, just so to give it to be fair, so finances role, and I'd say operations role is to execute. But also
yeah,
we, as the operations side of things, like we need to realize that we also need to figure out how to communicate with the finance guys,
yeah,
because we
respect.
can't tell you random plant things that you don't understand because it doesn't help anyone. So it is on us to try and kind of bring it down to a level that is understandable for everyone and put that into some kind of, I don't want to say a report, but just let them know what's going on so everyone's on the same page, and that way accurate,
Yeah,
like informed decisions can be made. But
100%.
automation, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, because I'm sure you come back to the grow and all of a sudden something, you can just hear it. You're like, oh, fuck, something's overflowing or something has gone awry. And like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like so you
Uh,
almost need like an automation system and a monitor system, and it's usually humans. And now we're getting better tech where you can get humans to monitor the monitors, but like it's like a two-tier
Yes.
system, which nobody budgets for that.
It's cool, and nobody you're right, nobody budgets for it, and some people do, and the technology really is getting so much better. Even the last, like, 5 or 6 years, the technology has gotten so much better with monitoring systems, and I'm a huge advocate for automation, for things that don't necessarily need to be done by a person. Irrigation,
Yeah,
we
of
that.
course.
Opening up of the blackouts on our greenhouses. They were sold to us as automated greenhouses. The blackouts didn't open and close on their own. Somebody had to go open 6 blackouts in the morning and close them at night, and just set a
No
timer
matter
on their
what you did
phone.
the night
Hopefully,
before.
oh, it was crazy, and I figured out how to automate them through our open sprinkler controllers, and then they just opened and closed in the morning, and my guy was finally like, "I can sleep past 7 o'clock in the morning for the first time in my life," and it was glorious, and I'm just like, "I know that it's gonna happen when it's supposed to," but the thing is, with any level of automation, I really preach, and I have an article about it actually, about how automation gets your crop killed because you trust your automation to do what it's supposed to do and you don't have anything to verify it. So if you have this automated irrigation, you need to know that your plants actually got irrigated, whether that is through substrate sensors, so you can see the increase in the water content or the EC, or most importantly, a decrease or it not getting fed when it's supposed to. So you can get a ping or an alert to say, hey, you should go check on that, because I wanted to have substrate sensors in our grow. And the investors were like, no, 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 we spent all this money. We can't have that. I was like, guys, you don't understand. You're now running 1 gallon cocoa pots in 100 degrees outside greenhouses, and one
Flameless ground.
valve, one problem is gonna just kill this whole house. And if we don't have sensors that are gonna let us know, and forget, we can do so much with tracking, with crop steering and things now, but really the sensors on a base level pay for themselves with just you knowing that your plants are healthy and the root zone is doing what it's supposed to do, instead of waking up in the middle of the night like, ooh, were those plants too dry? Like, no, the plants are fine. But on top of that, I also am a big advocate for flow sensors. You can put flow sensors on every zone and the room. I would say both if you can. I know some of the fertigation systems build flow sensors in, so you'll know, say these plants should get 100 gallons for this room or this bench. And if it's not within spec, say plus or minus 10% of that 100 gallons for the day or for the hour or whatever, that it should also send an alert. So you know, like, hey, this thing didn't happen. But also, if for some reason it's at like 300 gallons in 10, 20 minutes, then you can go check to see that you have a flood and you'll know before you have a problem. And you're able to then really get nitty gritty with exactly how much water am I using, exactly how much nutrients am I using. You know what your per gallon nutrient cost is, and then you can just extrapolate that to your plants per run. And really also start to figure out exactly what it costs to grow that plant between labor and nutrients and everything, all the inputs.
Because it is like the cost too. It's like because obviously, we're that's my wheelhouse with like cogs and everything. And it's like people just forget like you should know the cost per pound per gram for every run, like within
Oh yeah.
relatively a 1 to 3 months, like you can track all of your costs and allocate them accordingly to how much finished goods we get. But to your point, it's like nobody really thinks of that. And I'm just like chuckling because it's like they spend literally 7 figures on a whole grow and they're like just these last little sensors and things that like really secure your investment. They're like, I already spent so much money. Why would I have to spend a little
It
bit
was
more?
like a $200 sensor that ended up saving $100,000 of plants. It's like, really? You're gonna fight me on that?
Yep, and that's a return on investment that like that's where we do like miss a lot of money as investors and lenders. They're like, dude, we already spent so much. If you didn't get it right, we're just gonna run with what we have. And it's like, dude, like you built it from scratch. So yes, you had to spend tons of money, but as we start doing runs, each run, that's where we need like the monitoring and like the actual like ongoing investment. I call it budget at that point, but it's like you need ongoing budget for the ops. But it's like, we're just either not bringing enough cash. I think it's rarer now where like the investors are so greedy, they're trying to pull money out. Like usually there's not any profit to pull out. And so they're like, we got to work with the cash flows we have. But to your point, I feel like it's kind of like there's two problems we're talking about. Like on the front end, on the build out and budgeting, it's like, well, set hundreds of thousands of dollars aside for the OpEx. But then like once we're going, I feel like even, yeah, how we manage the budget of the business and the cash flow of the business, I feel like sometimes business owners do struggle to realize that they'll make more cash long term if they allocate a little bit more of the profits to the OpEx ongoing, whether it's, it's not just the staff, it's also like a little bit of the, tech that goes into it. And some of them are expenses where it's like, yes, maybe every grow, we need to get a few more new sensors. Just factor that into the cost of this run. But I guess like with that in mind, what are some common areas where the budget just doesn't get adequately allocated for cultivation or product manufacturing, like specific areas, like kind of, you have like your top three or top five, or like this is where everybody screws up?
Yeah, I'd say biggest like right away. It's not necessarily a thing, although I guess it is spending. It's just like infrastructure oversights. So spending millions of dollars on high tech cultivation spaces and then cheaping out on post harvest, or just skimping out on it, or not even thinking about it at all. Where are we gonna dry the plants? Who cares? We're gonna grow as many as we possibly can. That's what matters, right? And that leads to some problems. And I'll see high tech grows with a single dry room trying to handle multiple harvests, and you can put flower in after you. So say you've got part A at 1 week, and you're going to put new flower in there. You can do that, but you're introducing so much unnecessary moisture to that flower that's already
And it's
halfway
old
through its
school. It's
drying
like,
cycle.
yeah, that's legacy days
And there's
shit.
no
It's
need for
like
that anymore. Why would you build that? It's
you
so you
have
can
money, you
have
have
more than
space.
one dry room. Absolutely. You've got the
You can
space, you've got a budget.
and it's like you can do it in public. It's like, dude, you have a license, like just build the grow rooms. Cause that's like that's a good one that you hit on that. Is like the drying and curing process. It's like back in the day, so you get one harvest, like you're gonna take your time in the drying and curing process. It's like you get one, maybe two harvests. Whereas like now we're bringing down a harvest a week, harvest every other week. They're like, well, just get it through this dry room and get it packaged and out the door. And it's like, yeah, to your point, it degrades the quality. And at that point, you might, if you already said this is a bud and it's going in at this price and this SKU, it kind of already is. But yeah, to your point, I feel like that's like a simple one where it's like, okay, you have all this capacity, but you didn't realize that there's a bottleneck when it comes to drying and curing, and that leads to an inferior product. Okay, what other bottlenecks or like
Absolutely.
little areas?
The dry cure ends up being a bottleneck time flow and quality wise, because if you only have, so say that dry space can only handle one harvest instead of two harvests, like but staggered, now you can only flower as much as you can dry. So you have harvests backed up because of that dry room. So you have 6 rooms but that you can flower, but you can only dry one. So that math doesn't work either. Um, but going on, things that are also generally forgotten
Yeah,
about,
like
not really cared about.
misallocated, not budgeted.
IPM.
What's that?
Nobody budgets for IPM, which is integrated pest management, and that is going to allow you to handle your bugs, your pathogens, things like that before they become a problem. You should have people out there scouting pretty much every day through the canopy with cards, being able to identify what pests they're seeing, tagging things,
Yeah.
quarantining spaces that are looking sketchy. And I'm a huge proponent of beneficial insects. You can have a whole team of insects fighting for you,
Yeah,
24 hours
lady
a day. It's
stuff.
lovely. They are terrifying. There are, well, little tiny miniature wasps that will sting animals, or animals, sorry, like aphids and things like that. And
Nice. Death from
it's
above.
wild. Yeah, you got those. There's mites. There's predatory mites that will go after the bad mites. You have beneficial bacterias that can work inside of the soil. There's so much that can be done on the IPM side of thing. And when you're doing it proactively, you're spending a consistent stream of money. It's not a crazy expense, but it is an expense. There's labor involved, putting out the packets of bugs or
Yeah.
spraying, whatever you're gonna do, there's gonna be some level of labor. But if you don't do that, and you're like, what I hear all the time is like, we'll just handle it when there's an issue. It's like, okay, cool. So now
There's
your
gonna be
issue
an
is going
issue.
to cost, there's going to be an issue, and it's going to cost you way more to deal with that issue than it would have to just over time put out preventatives. And now you're going to have product loss anyway. So really, it just doing it right from the beginning is huge when it comes to
And it's
IPM.
I still have shivers down my spine the first time I went into a grow and like I saw animals and mold in the weed. I was just like, what the fuck? This is terrible. And so but it's like as an investor, like you don't realize that. You're like, I just gotta spend money on bugs to fight the bugs. doesn't make sense. Just have humans go look at it. And you're like, no, dude, like it's gonna like degrade. You can have a beautiful looking bud, and then as soon as you break it open, there's like a caterpillar on the inside. It's disgusting.
Oh
So
yeah.
IPM, that makes sense. And it's one of those things too where it's like you see these beautiful photos online of these spaceship looking grows. Like, of course there's no bugs in there. It's like, go look. Like you'll be amazed how many of these
Oh
spaceship
yeah.
grows not animal free or pest free. Um, okay, no,
It's nature. It's growing plants, so they're really, especially a monocrop. This is not how nature wants to work. So I say it's nature, but really it's not because nature does not grow all of the same thing in one space, and
yeah,
everything kind of evens itself out. The things that want to go over here can go somewhere where they're welcome and not be feasting on our cannabis plants. But in a greenhouse, once they're in, and that's what they
it's the
want.
only green thing to go to.
It's what they got.
Well, and kind of just on like just side quest because I like this topic, but like what do you kind of prefer? Like outdoor growing, greenhouse, indoor? Like obviously, like we've seen the full spectrum. We're in the industry, like we know you got to learn all three. You got to kind of like figure out how they're different, pros and cons of each. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm an outdoor dude, so like I love natural stuff like sun grown, living soil. But at the same time, I'm a business person, so I'd prefer 50 harvests a year versus one, and hopefully we get it right. It's like I want consistent sales, consistent expenses. So I prefer like the indoor and greenhouse kind of like model. But like if it was just me and my own grow, like my home garden's outdoors. So like what do you like, Max? Like what do you think are the pros and cons and like what do you think is better than the other?
I'd say that again, probably biased on this one because most of my growing has been in light depth greenhouses in Trinity County, so Northern California, Emerald Triangle, like the best conditions that we can get to grow. And then we're doing it in these super high tech greenhouses with supplemental lighting. So we basically called it what was it? Sun assisted indoor is what we called
Heard
it
that.
because it looked so good. You could take it anywhere outside of California and they would think that it is the best indoor they've ever seen, and then for us, it's just like, oh, it's just depths. It's like they're like, no, it's not depths. It's not what this is. And something different happens under the sun, and it's exciting because they are starting to research it, and we're actually starting to figure these kinds of things out from a scientific perspective of like why is it better under the sun. So having the control of a greenhouse, being able to supplement with the light, but also getting the sun is my totally my favorite way to do it. And I would foresee that when we live in a world that's not insane, where we have not
Yeah.
50, but in every single market is its own market. So we have to grow flower in places where it doesn't want to grow. So right now we can't just grow a ton of flower up in the triangle and move it around the country because we guess it's not how the laws work. But one day, maybe we'll be able to go to the store and buy some Trinity County flour in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. And
Ah,
that is when you'll see greenhouses take over even more because now, like somewhere like Jersey, I'm like, greenhouses would be great, except it's 95% humidity outside right now. And that's terrifying. I don't want to deal with that. So
yeah.
it's
It's like the local consumer in me is like, nah, I want to buy somebody cultivated in the States. I'm used to like beers and breweries. And it's like, ah, I'm in Minnesota right now because I'm going checking out their market. So I had like a surly. And it's like cannabis is kind of like that. But to your point, it's like it's more finicky. Like, yes, if somebody grows some Michigan finest, I'm gonna take it because it's Michigan. But if it's like you get one grow, yes, you could make an indoor facility, but like then you're competing with just economies of scale, which are much larger in outdoor and greenhouses. But no, that is, yeah, when the world is no longer insane, I also hope that we could, because like California is a mecca. I just got back from Europe, and it's like people from Europe love cannabis from the States as much as they hate to admit it. It's like everybody wants the California strain drops. Um, Same in the East Coast. New York wants them as well. But everybody's getting their own little markets, so I find that very cool too, where it's like Michigan has deep roots in cannabis. And so even once it goes federally legal and there's interstate commerce, the roots are just too deep, where it's like people are still going to cultivate in Michigan and buy Michigan brands.
absolutely.
Because they
And
do
then
grow
you
in mine.
can charge a premium. You're like, okay, cool, you're buying this because of that. And it can become more of a connoisseur market where it's like you're buying this thing because you want it instead of just because it's what is available.
Yeah. It's like the local brand that's also good. It's like, oh, we have choices now. It's all really good product, but now the brand that sticks out a little bit. And that's a whole another conversation of branding and whatnot. But okay, so we have IPMs, dry rooms. What other are like some like what would be a third or fourth kind of not adequate?
I've got a really good third one that honestly might just need to be number one for everybody. Is what are you going to do with all of this green waste that you have to render unrecognizable and useless? So every plant that you pull, or every leaf that you pull from the plant, every piece of product that comes from the plants, whether it's a clone that died or something in flower that died or just looks sketchy, so you killed it, all of that has to be stored and then destroyed, and each state has different rules for what they do. In California, we they like came in and sprayed some paint on it to make it unrecognizable and destroyed. It's a really interesting process. But if you don't have the labor for that, someone to move this around, somewhere to keep it, and a lot of places I've seen people use, they'll chop up their words.
Stock?
They will chop up their, what are they called? Oh, they will chop up their rock wool tubes. So they'll chop up their substrate as well. And you have to mix it. So each state, again, will have their own rules, but you have to mix it. So it can't be 100% cannabis waste. You'll have to make it 50-50 or something like that. So they will use the rock wool or some other kind of inert substance to dilute the scary cannabis trash.
Yeah, so the kids don't smoke
And
the trash.
and that's really expensive. People don't think about that, and you can't just drive that to the dump. You have to contract somebody who does that, and none of that is cheap, and none of that
Like waste
is like
removal.
is small in space requirements. So that's definitely something that is highly forgotten.
No, for that is interesting too. Cause yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, I don't know, if you're like outdoor on the farm, it's like, well, we have a compost pile for that. Like that's where that
We have a
goes.
compost pile, and that was the legal way to do it in California for our facility type. But if you're in the city, you
Yep.
have some
You're growing in
serious
New
thinking to do.
Jersey. Yep. No, another one of those things of like, love the consistency and the multi harvest per year with like an indoor grow and like the closeness for, just logistics and whatnot to get your product out. But yeah, then you got to deal with the municipalities of that city, which are normally a lot more strict than some BFE nowhere municipality where your grow is located.
Trinity
That was
did not care what we did back in 2020 and 2021.
I can appreciate that. And so how would you say it's been different? Because you were far west coast in Alaska. So it's like coming from Alaska, I feel like now you're back in New Jersey or the East Coast. Like, how would you say kind of the West Coast mentality is different than the East Coast mentality? And maybe it's just a time thing where it's 5 years have passed, but how would you say there's a difference between Alaska to New Jersey, just a stereotype for fun?
So I am originally from New Jersey. I love to hate on Jersey. I bounce between
I
Jersey and
love New Jersey
Pennsylvania.
actually. Some cold cuts, Atlantic City.
Yeah, it's funny because whenever I say like, "Oh, Jersey's not so bad," I'm like, I guess I just grew up here and I like mountains. I like nature. So being trapped in suburbia is not where I want to be. But it's interesting because my dad moved to Colorado when they went recreational because he was like, I don't want to live somewhere where I can go to jail for having a joint in my pocket. So he decided that he was going to go to Colorado.
Nice.
And that was the year that I went out there for the first time too, traveling and taking pictures. So I was able to see what it could be like. One, legal cannabis, but two, just like wide open spaces. And that just translated to just a love for travel and the road, and Alaska is was the inevitable outcome of there. And it was cool because I was in Alaska for its first year of recreational, and it started out as like super sketchy. Like you'd go into this back room in this closet. This is a legal dispensary, but it was like the sketchiest place you've ever been. And now it is like the guys that I was working for out in Denali, they've got a beautiful little location, and it is completely normal out there. You've got people growing in greenhouses that on these crazy days. So right now it's what, July 10th. That means that the sun probably sets at like 11:30 right now and then comes back up at like 1:30 in the morning. So it never gets dark. It's super trippy. And their cannabis market is really cool because you don't expect there to be the level of connoisseurs up there that there are, I feel like. And there are a lot of people that are really in it for the love of the game up there.
Oh yeah. I can appreciate that for sure. Because I feel like You got to be in it for the love of the game. And it is like for some of these like more like mountainous towns. Like I moved out to Colorado. Like that's kind of where I really got exposed to like regulated cannabis. And I don't know, it is very interesting. Early days, like I was saying, like I had family in Michigan and back. They were one of the first states in '09 with the caregiver program in the Midwest. And it's like this it was like going into somebody's house, but they're like, no, 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 like I got cards now, I got a medical or I got a license, it's legit now. But it's like it doesn't feel like it's legit. It still feels like it always has felt like, no, 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 we're legal now. We got a framework now because of the state. And so like 'cause I'm from Wisconsin. So like I remember going up to Michigan and then out to Colorado, and it's still like, is this all legit now? It's like, no, it's all legit now. But to your point, it was baby steps starting out. It wasn't there wasn't a ton of money when original adult use started. Now people are kind of used to like these talks about capital, but it's like originally it was like your rich friend or like a sketchy friend who had cash, and you're like, ah, cool, now we can get this grow going. But it wasn't like real angel investors from outside cannabis investing in this new health and wellness industry. Like it was sketchy dudes with duffel bags and sketchy places. But you gotta, but it was legal, so we
And
were.
then that was the oh, sorry, good.
No, that's all I was gonna say. It's like we needed some level of like plausible deniability. And it's like, oh, great. Now we at least have a caregivers program. We're growing for medical patients. Now we're growing for adult use. But like early days, medical and adult use was early days. Um,
It's cool. There's not often that we get to see this kind of shift in an industry where things have gone from completely illegal to turning on and becoming more legal in different ways, and each state is kind of its own experiment. So you would in theory think that people would be learning from the experiments that have taken place before them, but it doesn't seem like they are. I don't know why. Because there's so many failures to look at.
no, and I would agree. I would agree. We're about to bring this into land, but just like one more question on that point, because yeah, it's like I see this as well. Like people have seen the failures. We've raised capital, and like we said, we've over deployed it on the capex and didn't have enough left over for opex. Or we've had it and we just for whatever reason won't deploy it into opex. I've literally have seen that before as well. We're like, I'm scared to deploy this, and it's like, dude, you got to. Um, so it's just like it's just one of those things where I feel like people keep making the same mistakes. And so I guess just at a high level, and obviously like just tongue in cheek, but why do you think people are making similar mistakes? Is it just like lack of knowledge of how to run this business because it is such a new industry? Like we don't have decades to look back on like construction companies do, where they can learn from decades of this. Like, so do you think it's just like a lack of knowledge, or just like people just like refusing to learn even though the knowledge is there? Like where do you think it is, like a refusal to learn, or just a true lack of knowledge and we're just building the plane as we fly it? I know it's a loaded question.
I'd say it's both, because really it comes down to a desire for knowledge. There is knowledge out there. Like, yes, we are early in the documented research stages of things. There's only so much that you can find on the internet or on a book, but there are plenty of people that have been doing this for a really long time, and it's still a plant. So at the end of the day, there are people who grow plants that will be helpful in this realm. But I also see issues with that because oh, I grow plants. I can grow 100,000 of whatever this plant is in these greenhouses, and it's just controlled environment agriculture, so it's the same. And it's not, because cannabis is a picky plant and it wants you to care for it. It's not a set it and forget it and come back 60 days later and it's ready for you plant. So it definitely comes on, I guess. I actually forgot where the question was. I was going somewhere
How do people
good.
make common mistakes? But to your point, it's like we had time to learn from the mistakes. We've had people in the industry, do the thing. But it's like one of those things. I feel like the more that we understand the plant, we understand our faults more. Where it's like if you're really good at growing heirloom tomatoes, you could probably tell me all the different types of tomatoes and how they grow. But then I could also have my own tomato garden because I want to make my, salsas once a year. So I feel like part of it is kind of like we are just naive, but like as people continue to grow and years go on, people get more nuanced. But then it's the fine. That's where I feel like finance always comes up short. Is like they don't want to bring these people into the conversation earlier on, and it's like you don't know how this facility should grow. Like you got to bring them in, and so it's like the more that people like yourself and other people start being kind of brought into the fold, because it's like and it's this unique thing where it's like if you were like the 20-year heady grower, like you just kind of don't even want to live in this world. And so like you're hard to pull into it. And if you're like a newer guy, like you still kind of don't get the street cred because you haven't been growing for 10 decades under, in the hills. And so it's like obviously I'm, professional outside of cannabis and came into cannabis. So I'm always on team of like, just bring in the new people. Like they're going to learn and they'll probably bring in new ideas that like the old heads just didn't have because, bless their heart for getting us going, but like they just didn't have the access to the groups and the different like, mastermind groups, cultivators, people actually sharing knowledge like freely, as opposed to like, I know this homie, we're at a sesh, we're actually sharing a joint. I'll tell you my secrets. It's like, nah, dude, we have full on like Substack articles where people are just sharing best practices. Um, so now it's kind of interesting.
You got to remember too that back then, like your notebook full of logs or your harvest weights from past runs, that's evidence. So it's not like now where we have spreadsheets on spreadsheets on
Data
spreadsheets where
everywhere.
we don't care because it's just business. It's like that's evidence of exactly what you did and when you did it. But when it comes to the financial side and the disconnect, it really does become just the situation of you don't know what you don't know. And if you're not asking the right questions, you may have somebody who just wants to take your money and just kind of like tell you yes and just see that you're not asking the right questions. So you're like, okay, cool, we're just going to run this until it hits its end or they fail or it's time for me to go. And
Different.
unfortunately, with the way the market is you can go to a different state and you can try it again.
I was just in Germany and
Eh,
I got to go with the grower out there because yeah, they did the same thing. They're almost proud of it. They're like, yeah, I got cashed out, I sold out, and we didn't really make enough money and just moved on to the next grow. And it's just like, dude, you're the reason it's so hard to raise capital right now, is because it's like everybody brags about the money they've raised or the money they deployed to buy X amount of companies, but like nobody brags about the profits these companies made. And that's where like me coming into the regulated market like 2018, 2020, it's just like you guys, that's ruined it for the rest of us. And it's like everybody talks about the glory years of like 2012 to 2022. And it's like, yeah, but you guys were just living fast and carelessly, and there was no competition and no really like oversight. And so, like, didn't matter if you had a bad run, $4,000 a pound, you'll catch it up on the next run. But now when it's like real business and it's not 4,000 a pound or 3,000 or 2,000, it's like we can't afford to be reckless anymore. And a lot of those like bad habit operators who got in early are now running headlong into these like their lack of actual business acumen. And actually, unfortunately, the investors are the ones who suffer and the employees. It's like, granted, that the founders lose their companies, but the employees are out of the job, the investors are out of their capital, and it's just like this all could have been avoided. I feel like that's kind of like why I wanted to bring you on. It's like operations and finance talks more regularly on a regular basis in reality of feasibility, we'll have less of these cannabis companies going out of business and the employees, good employees, having to go find new homes. And because it's not like you just get to go find another cannabis company to work for. Like I had family go move to Michigan, then to Colorado, then Oregon. I have family in Oklahoma growing just so we can grow weed. And it's just like you don't just get to find a new job. Whereas like you might actually have to uproot, you're gonna have to move your whole van somewhere if like you gotta like move to a new grow. I've been there,
yep.
but keep that in mind. I'm still excited about the future of the cannabis industry. I know we're going in the right direction, not without our headaches, not without our setbacks, but we're going in the right direction. But Max, my man, just to bring this into land, what has you excited about the future? I guess what are your concerns about the future of cannabis, but what are you excited about? Just to cover both sides.
I guess that's an interesting way of putting it. Like because I am excited for the future, but I tend to maybe be a little bit cynical on just what I see because I've seen some
Yeah,
things that make me cynical.
some trends.
Um, Yeah, absolutely. And like I may be critical in my articles, but we really do have so much to still be explored about this plant, and that it really is exciting. We've got more and more people approaching me and approaching other people that I know that are asking the right questions that tell me that they're here for the right reasons and they're focused on quality and not a quick exit. Questions like what's it going to take to grow a 12-week strain? And is that possible? We're not even asking, just telling me like, yeah, we want to grow some long stuff. We want to grow some old school flower. We actually want to do a proper dry and not just rush this to market. And those are the questions that tell me I'm like, okay, you're here for the long haul. You're here because you are a consumer. You're here because you're passionate about this. And that is huge. Being curious, being passionate about it really is the answer to, I mean, anything that you want to do in life, but especially to this, because this is not an industry that just will freely pay you. It takes a lot to stick with it and to still be here. And a lot of people have not made it whether it's because like for any reason. But with some really cool things that are coming along are AI crop steering and the under canopy lighting, and the fact that we're now able to collect data from basically every part of the grow, from your substrate to your environment to your lights, everything. So we can take all that data and we can see what's happening. We can compare one grow to the next grow. And I've seen people doc, oh, grams per square foot doesn't matter, pounds per, it's just the new pounds per light. It's like you still need some metric of what is happening in your space. How do you compare one cultivar to another? How do you compare like anything? Or these lights, we tried this. You need to have an idea of not only your grams per square foot for your plant production, but what is your cost per square foot? What is your cost per plant?
Yeah.
Uh,
Because like the market dictates the price. As long as we have quantity, the price is kind of set. But like we can control our costs. And let's to your point, let's not just make it zero because then we don't have any weed to sell. We got to like have the correct amount of OpEx costs so we have good quality product to sell. And kind of full circle on that, Max. I agree with you. I think the long term mindset is kind of starting to take hold where there was, for better or for worse, a lot of short term cash grab type financing situations that happen, and even owner operators where it's like they didn't love the plant and the culture. They loved the idea of a new industry like the internet. Like there's so many tech startups that just wanted to create something and get out and get their payday. And it literally had a tech bubble. Like we literally went through this whole thing called the tech bubble because there's so many people getting into it to get a quick buck. Cannabis is going through the exact same thing. It's like our generation's internet. Like companies didn't exist. A state legalizes, tens of millions of dollars pour in, and these companies exist. And so we're seeing more long-term minded thinkers. Like, cause I'm long-term, like I love this industry. So it's like, well, I'm just happy to be here because I came from Wall Street. It was boring as shit over there. And so it's like, as long as we get more of these long-term minded operations people in here, long-term minded finance people in here, I feel like we can make some magic. Um, but even like the under canopy thing, because like I remember when I first time I heard about that, I was like, that's bullshit. They're just trying to sell stuff to the industry. So like the tech is continuing improving how we grow the plants, like what you can actually get from a plant. Like, yeah, it's never ending. Same with like the products. Like I remember seeing a dab for the first time, being like, "We're the future is now. Like this is the end of cannabis," and it's like now we've gone way past that, and it's like now I can walk around with a dab. So it's like, dude,
Now
with the
you walk around with some of the best rosin on the planet in a pen. It's
it's we're living in the future. But man, Max, this was a pleasure, my man. I'll let you go to respect your time, but let's run it back again here in a little bit. But thanks so much for your time. Have a good one, man.
definitely. Raymond, thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, you as well. Be well.